So this thyroiditis, it includes a group of individual disorder that causes thyroidal inflammation, or you can say inflammation of the thyroid tissue. And as a result of it, there will be some destruction of the thyroid epithelial cells, and a variety of clinical presentation will be there. Okay, so this thyroid, whenever there is inflammation, whatever is the etiological cause, whatever is the causing factor, it causes the inflammation of thyroid gland gets swollen up, and these are the different types of thyroiditis you'll get. The most common, okay, is the Hashimoto's thyroiditis. Then you have a subacute thyroiditis, acute or infectious thyroiditis, which is associated with suppurative infection. Sometimes it can be drug-induced thyroiditis, or it can be radiation-induced thyroiditis. Radiation as a form of treatment. Suppose if radiotherapy or as an investigation, okay, if a radiation is used in the upper chest, in the head and neck region, okay, sometimes the thyroid gland, it may get inflamed and it may result in radiation-induced thyroiditis. Okay, so we are not going to talk about all these thyroiditis. These are just the types. Okay, we are going to talk about the two types of thyroiditis. So again, here you can see acute thyroiditis, which is very rare and it is due to the infection. Subacute, which is also called as de Quervain thyroiditis, or it is also called as granulomatous thyroiditis. Okay, de Quervain thyroiditis is also called as granulomatous thyroiditis because you can see multinucleated giant cells and granuloma in these inflammation. This is basically, it follows the viral infection, so viral in origin, and it is a self-limiting type of thyroiditis. Then the third type is chronic thyroiditis, and the most common example for this one is Hashimoto's thyroiditis, and it is an autoimmune thyroiditis, so it is autoimmune. So because of the self-defense of our autoimmunity, this Hashimoto's thyroiditis results. So basically we are going to talk about de Quervain thyroiditis and Hashimoto's thyroiditis in our class. Okay, that is according to our syllabus. So talking about Hashimoto's thyroiditis, it's an autoimmune thyroid disease. I think by this time all of you are aware what is autoimmune. Apart from thyroid disease, there are many other autoimmune disorders, okay, like systemic lupus erythematosus, rheumatoid arthritis. So this Hashimoto's thyroiditis is also the inflammation of thyroid, which is basically due to autoimmunity. It is characterized by the destruction of the thyroid cells, or what you can call it as thyroid follicular cells, by various cell and antibody mediated immune process. Okay, so it is basically the autoimmune induced destruction of the thyroid epithelial cells, and the most common cause of hypothyroidism. So when patient comes to you, they will come with the features of hypothyroidism. They won't come to you saying that I have inflammation of the thyroid or I have Hashimoto's thyroiditis. Okay, so patient will come to the hospital with the features of hypothyroidism. So when you are trying to find out the cause of hypothyroidism, it will be Hashimoto's thyroiditis. So that's why it is said it is the most common cause of hypothyroidism. And the name Hashimoto thyroiditis is derived, okay, from the back in 1912. This condition was reported by Hashimoto. Okay, Hashimoto described the thyroid swelling, goiter, thyroid swelling, that is goiter, okay, with intense lymphocytic infiltration of the thyroid. So thyroid inflammation or the swelling of the thyroid gland, which is called as goiter, along with the lymphocytic infiltration, along with the chronic inflammatory cells, that is lymphocyte, okay, was given the name Hashimoto by Hashimoto in 1912. So from then, we are calling this type of inflammation of the thyroid gland as Hashimoto's thyroiditis. Okay. The other name of Hashimoto thyroiditis is also struma lymphomatosa, because of the lymphocytic infiltration. It somewhat resembles lymphoid tissue. So struma lymphomatosa. Okay. Somewhere else like struma ovary. Okay. If in the dermoid teratoma of the ovaries, if you see thyroid tissue, we call it as struma ovary. Okay. Just like that, here you are seeing a lymphoid tissue, okay, in the thyroid. So it is struma lymphomatosa. Incidence, it's common in adult patient. Okay, nowadays any age is affected. The most common age is 45 to 65 and very commonly seen in female patient. Almost 10 to 20 times more common in female when you compare with male. Okay, although it is primarily a disease of older women, it can occur in children and is a major cause of non-endemic goiter in the pediatric population. Okay, so it can present as a goiter. You can see the thyroid swelling, neck swelling. Okay, it can present as a hypothyroidism, and you should be aware that it's very commonly seen in women, young women, adults. Okay, and it can also be seen in children. Okay, so the patient coming with features of hypothyroidism in non-endemic area, you have to rule out Hashimoto. So talking about the etiology, it has a strong genetic component. Okay, that's why the concordance of disease is seen as many as 40% among the monozygotic twins. So in monozygotic twins, there is 40%. Okay, the incidence, the occurrence is 40%, as well as the presence of circulating antithyroid antibodies in approximately 50% of asymptomatic siblings. Okay, among these siblings of Hashimoto's patient. So very commonly seen in the family who's giving the positive history. There is increased susceptibility to Hashimoto's thyroiditis with polymorphism in multiple immune regulation associated genes. Okay, so that gene is cytotoxic T lymphocyte associated antigen 4 gene. So if this gene, okay, if the polymorphism is associated with this gene, again, that those individuals, they are very susceptible to have this Hashimoto thyroiditis. In the pathogenesis, what happened is there will be presence of these circulating autoantibodies, okay, and these autobodies, they are what you can say is they circulate or they are being produced against the thyroglobulin and thyroid peroxidase, okay, in the thyroid follicular cells, and they will start destroying these cells. So induction of the thyroid autoimmunity is accompanied by a progressive depletion. So what happened? There will be progressive depletion of thyrocytes by apoptosis. So when these autoantibodies, when they start attacking these thyrocytes, either there will be destruction or depletion of these thyrocytes by apoptosis, or there will be a replacement of these thyroid tissue by mononuclear cell infiltration, that is lymphocyte. Okay, so the thyrocyte or the thyroid cells, what happened? They will start dying on their own by apoptosis because of the autoantibody reaction, or these normal thyrocytes, they are replaced by the infiltration of the lymphocytes. So as you all know now that this is a chronic inflammation procedure, what happened? There will be fibrosis also. As a part of chronic inflammation, it is also replaced by fibrosis. Basically, when you talk about the pathogenesis where these thyroid follicular cells, where they are destructed or depleted by the autoimmune mechanism, three mechanisms you can say will work on it. The first one is by cytotoxic T cell. Second is by the cytokine, it is the inflammatory mediator, and third is because of the anti-thyroid antibodies. These anti-thyroid antibodies, it gets bound. Okay, it gets bound to those cells. So these are the three mechanisms. The first is CD8 plus cytotoxic T cell mediated cell damage or cell death. CD8 plus cytotoxic T cells, they cause the destruction of the thyroid. They destroy the thyroid. Okay. Second is the cytokine. It causes the cell death. There is excessive T cell activation, which leads to the production of increased amount of cytokines, okay, such as gamma interferon in the thyroid gland. And what happens? There will be more and more recruitment, amounts of more and more they get gathered, this gamma interferon, and there is activation of the macrophages. And these macrophages, like in any other tissue, in any other system, macrophages also, they act like a garbage collector, right? So they will go and they will try to destroy, they will eat up all the debris and everything. So they will go and damage the follicular cells. So basically it is by the gamma interferon, which is a cytokine. The third is binding of anti-thyroid antibodies, anti-thyroglobulin and anti-thyroid peroxidase antibodies. So I don't know how many of you have heard about anti-TPO. Nowadays, whenever the people, they say that they have hypothyroidism or hyperthyroidism, we usually advise them to go for thyroid function test. Okay, in thyroid function test, what do? We go for TSS, thyroid stimulating hormone, and then we test for serum T3 level and T4 level. So apart from that, TFT, okay, which includes TSH, T3 and T4, we also recommend, if you're suspecting some autoimmune thyroiditis, we tell the patient to do anti-TPO. This is the antibody test, anti-TPO, okay? So in this, because of the anti-TPO and anti-thyroglobulin, they destroy these thyroid follicular cells, okay? This is antibody dependent cell mediated cytotoxicity which destroy the thyroid follicular cells. So in this diagram, which I have taken from Robbins, here also you can see that these are the thyroid follicular cells, okay? They are being destroyed by the three mechanisms. As I told, cells by the CD8 plus cytotoxic T cells, okay? So these are the normal, it's being destroyed here. Then the second is by the production of gamma interferon. There is more and more recruitment of the gamma interferon. These macrophages, see, they get activated and they will destroy the thyroid. Okay. The third is the anti-thyroid antibodies. Okay. They get bound to the epithelial cells, follicular cells. Okay. And they are being destroyed by this antibody-dependent cell-mediated cytotoxicity. Okay, so whatever is the mechanism, out of these three mechanisms, the ultimate result is the thyroid injury or the injury to the thyroid epithelial cells. Okay. Now talking about the morphology of Hashimoto's thyroiditis, we will talk about the gross and the microscopic features of Hashimoto's thyroiditis. Gross, the thyroid gland is diffusely enlarged, diffuse, ekdam symmetrical, as if the whole of the thyroid is swollen. Okay. In very few cases, you can see localized enlargement of the thyroid. The capsule will be intact. The gland is well demarcated from normal adjacent structures. So the surrounding adjacent structures, the surrounding tissues will be normal. Only the involved thyroid tissue will be swollen up. Okay. When you cut the thyroid gland, you can see the pale yellow tan color. It will be firm in consistency because of the fibrosis and because of the lymphocytic infiltration, and somewhat it looks nodular on cut surface. Okay. Nowadays, it's very rare to get the growth of the thyroid gland. Hashimoto's thyroiditis inflammation, Udema, nobody takes out the thyroid gland, isn't it? It's not the tumor. So earlier days, for some other reason, they might be thinking that it is a tumor, it is a neoplastic lesion. They would have taken out the thyroid gland, okay? But nowadays, it's very rare that the thyroid gland is taken out for thyroiditis. Rather than that, before we see any massive gross features, okay, the treatment is given to the patient. However, and is the meaty appearance it has, and on the cut surface you can see the pale yellow areas, okay, and somewhat it looks nodular. Here is one more nodule here. Here also you can appreciate the nodules. Okay, microscopy, the thyroid follicular epithelial cells, they will either, because of the apoptosis and because of the destruction, they will undergo either atrophy or destruction, okay, or these follicular epithelial cells will change into Hurdle cell. So Hurdle cells are the follicular cells, okay, cells, and these cells, they have abundant eosinophilic granular cytoplasm, okay. So basically these cells, they look a bit larger in size and they look very eosinophilic because of the very abundant amount of cytoplasm, which looks very eosinophilic and it's granular. Apart from that, you can see a large number of lymphocytes. So see, it looks as if you are taking a section from the lymphoid tissue, lymph node. In some cases, the lymphoid tissue is so much that you can see a lymphoid follicle also, like that of lymph node. Okay, you have a pale germinal center, and and a lymphoid follicle also you can see, and these are the lymphocytes. Okay, so this is the microscopy. Now let's get into the detail. So there is extensive infiltration of the parenchyma by a mononuclear infiltratory cells, that is lymphocytes, plasma cells, okay, and a well-developed germinal center. The thyroid follicular cells, they are atrophic. You can see Hurdle cells, and these Hurdle cells are the epithelial cells with abundant amount of eosinophilic granular cytoplasm. And this Hurdle cell is a metaplastic response of the normally low cuboidal epithelial cells, okay, which is undergoing the injury or the inflammatory process. So, because of the inflammatory process, because of the ongoing injury, the normal follicular cells, okay, they are undergoing the metaplastic response or metaplastic changes, and they will form these type of Hurdle cells. Then in the stroma, in the interstitial tissue, you can see there is increased fibrosis, okay, and because of that, in the gross, you can see firm in consistency. You can feel that the tissue is firm in consistency. So, see here, you can see that these are the your thyroid follicles, okay. This is the colloid. This is the lymphoid follicle, and you can see this all blue dot-like thing. These are all the lymphocytic infiltration. Okay. We are also high power. You can see this is all the lymphocyte. In between, you can see the plasma cell. These are all the thyroid follicular cells. These are all thyroid follicular cells. See, it looks very large, but they are not malignant cells. They have abundant eosinophilic cytoplasm. This is a nucleus. Okay. So these are the Hurdle cell. These are normal follicular cells. These are Hurdle cells with large nucleus and abundant eosinophilic cytoplasm. Okay. So that is one of the important feature, hallmark of Hashimoto's thyroiditis. So diagnosis, okay, patient will come with features of hypothyroidism. So you will send for TFT. You will find that there is low T3, low T4, When this T3 and T4 is decreased, TSH will be raised. Okay, sometimes it goes beyond 50, 60, 100 also, very high TSH. Then you also look for the presence of autoantibodies like anti-TPO and anti-thyroglobulin. If it is Hashimoto's, not necessarily 100%, but almost 90% of the cases they show presence of autoantibodies, that is TPO. And in 60 to 80% cases, you can see presence of anti-thyroglobulin antibody. Okay. Nowadays, most of the patient, whenever they have a thyroid swelling, we tell the patient to go for ultrasound of the neck, and these thyroid gland will be swollen, okay, diffusely enlarged, and because of the inflammation process going on, there will be increased vascularity in the thyroid gland tissue. And as I told you, nowadays nobody would take out the thyroid gland to see the gross and microscopy. So what do? We send the patient for thyroid function test, we do ultrasound of neck, and we do FNAC, fine needle aspiration cytology. So we take out a small amount of cell tissue in the needle, fine needle aspiration, and we look for the cytology. Okay. So fine needle aspiration cytology will also give the diagnosis of Hashimoto's thyroiditis, where we can see the these Hürthle cells and the lymphocytic infiltration. Okay. So just for you, whether you remember or not, these features of hypothyroidism. So though the patient they have this Hashimoto's, they can come with the features of hypothyroidism like intolerance to temperature, hair fall, okay, facial edema, dull looking features, weakness, muscle fatigue. In children, if it is this Hashimoto's and features of hypothyroidism is too much, they have a slowdown in talking, slur speech, anorexia. In spite of anorexia, there will be weight gain. The hair looks very brittle and rough. Skin also becomes very dry and rough. Okay, they will have this. They will also affect the bowel habit, constipation. And if the hypothyroidism is very severe, okay, if the thyroid function test is very much altered, you can have bradycardia, abnormal ECG changes, weight gain, okay, and you can also have cardiac complications. So this we have almost covered, okay, clinical course. Now you should be aware of the term hashitoxicosis. Sometimes in Viva we ask what is hashitoxicosis. So sometime in Hashimoto's thyroiditis, what happened, though we say that there will be hypothyroidism, okay, this hypothyroidism is preceded by a transient. For a very short period of time, what happened is there is thyrotoxicosis caused by disruption of the thyroid follicular cells with secondary release of thyroid hormone. Okay, so for a very short period of time, there is increased release of thyroid hormone. So in that case, in that period, what happened? This T3 and T4 levels are very much elevated. Ekdam high also T3, T4, and TSH will be decreased. But that will for a very transient period of time, and this is called as hashitoxicosis. So you have a toxic features because of hyperthyroidism in Hashimoto. Okay, toxic features because of hyperthyroidism, increased T3, T4, and in Hashimoto's. That's why it is called as hashitoxicosis. Okay, in that case, the radioactive iodine uptake is also decreased. And again, this hypothyroidism, as later it supervenes, T4 and T3 level, again it goes down. Okay, after that transient period is over, again T4, T3 levels, they go down. Okay, and again there will be compensatory increase in TSH. So that is about the hashitoxicosis. So complication of Hashimoto's thyroiditis, okay, since it is an autoimmune disorder, you can have so many other systemic diseases associated with this, because there is activation of autoimmunity. You can have type 1 diabetes, autoimmune adrenalitis, SLE, systemic lupus erythematosus, myasthenia gravis, Sjogren's syndrome, okay. And in few, you can have an increased risk for the development of B cell, okay, lymphoma also. You can have a increased risk of B cell lymphoma also. And the second is, okay, after Hashimoto's, you have granulomatous thyroiditis, which is also called as subacute thyroiditis or dequervent thyroiditis. Okay, subacute, dequervent, granulomatous, any name you can call. It usually it is a post-viral syndrome with thyroid pain. So in this case, patient they gives a history of viral infection, okay, and they will also come to you with the thyroid pain, painful thyroid swelling. The age is usually again the adult 40 to 50, again more commonly seen in female patient. Now you must have realized both these thyroiditis is very commonly seen in female patient, 4 times more common in female and triggered by a viral infection. Okay, so patient will give a history of respiratory tract infection, upper respiratory tract infection just before the onset of thyroiditis. The disease also has a seasonal incidence and it occurs most commonly in summer. Etiology, it can be systemic viral infection, okay. It is associated with the epidemic of measles, mumps, Coxsackie virus, adenovirus and influenza. Other viral infections are also linked to some extent. Pathogenesis, it results from a viral infection that leads to exposure to a viral or thyroid antigen, which is released secondary to a virus-induced host tissue damage. Okay, this antigen it stimulates cytotoxic T lymphocyte, and this will start damaging the thyroid follicular cells. In contrast to the autoimmune thyroid disease, the immune response in this granulomatous thyroiditis or what you call subacute thyroiditis is virus initiated, okay, and is not self-perpetuating. It's not it's not like self-limiting type of disease like autoimmune disease, okay. So here it is limited. I mean, it's not like autoimmune, and it is not like acute also, not like other inflammatory also. The process of the destruction of the thyroid cell is limited, unlike Hashimoto's thyroiditis and unlike the acute type of thyroiditis. So talking about the morphology of this dequervent thyroiditis or granulomatous thyroiditis, you have again gross and microscopic. Gross, it is unilateral or bilateral enlarged, okay, the gland. It is firm in consistency again. It has an intact capsule. The gland may be slightly adherent to the surrounding tissue because viral infection. And the cut section of the gland, it shows the involved areas, okay, as yellow-white area. Yellow-white area. It looks very different from the normal surrounding tissue. Consistency, when you feel the thyroid tissue, it is firm in consistency, okay, and you can very like clearly demarcate, or you can differentiate it from the normal thyroid tissue, normal surrounding thyroid tissue. So it is basically grayish white in color. And nodular appearance also you can see just like Hashimoto's thyroiditis. Microscopically, the changes are patchy and it depends on the stage of the disease. So if it is the early active inflammatory phase, you can see that these follicles, okay, thyroid follicular cells, they are entirely disrupted and they are replaced by the neutrophils forming the microabscess. You can predominantly see the inflammatory cells in the form of collection of the neutrophil, microabscess. Okay. In the later phase, you can see the aggregates of lymphocytes. You can see macrophages. Okay. You can see plasma cells and you can see damaged thyroid follicular cells. As we know that the name granulomatous thyroiditis is given to this type of thyroiditis, You can also see multinucleated type of giant cells along with epithelioid-like cells, okay, giving a granuloma type look, okay. That's why it is called as granulomatous thyroiditis. In again the most later part of the inflammation, there will be more of lymphocytic infiltration, there will be more of fibrosis, and it, okay, yeah, you cannot see this, so you can see more of these fibrosis, okay, along with the lymphocytic infiltration. So in single patient, you can either see early phase or you can see later phase, or sometimes in different sites you can see different stages. Like you can see the mixed stages in the same individual. Okay, so this suggests the different waves of destruction over a period of time. So how the destruction is being taken place there, and how your thyroid follicular cell is giving the response, okay, that depends on the type of stages or the phases it is showing on the microscopy. So see, this is a giant cells, you can see epithelioid-like cells. So this is a granuloma, these are all the lymphocytes, this is a destroyed thyroid follicular cells with a colloid in the lumen, okay. Again here you can see one more giant cells, another giant cell here, destroyed thyroid follicular cells with luminal colloid. Here you can see all these lymphocytes. Now the clinical course, most common cause of the thyroid pain. So patient will come with neck pain. Okay, on palpation, the patient will give you the history of thyroid pain. There will be variable enlargement of the thyroid gland. The thyroid inflammation and hypothyroidism are transient usually, and it diminishes in 2 to 6 weeks because it's a viral infection, okay. And nearly all patients, they have high serum T4 and T3 and low TSH because they will come with features of hypothyroidism. So history of upper respiratory tract infection is very important. They will give the history of that. There will be painful enlargement of the thyroid gland. Features of hypothyroidism will be there. So these are the features of hypothyroidism. See, the patient will give history of intolerance to heat, fine straight hair. They have these, if the thyroid hormone T3, T4 is very high, they will give features like of these toxic features of hypothyroidism like bulging eyes, okay, tachycardia. They will have this weight loss in spite of properly eating, muscle wasting. They can have localized pedal edema, menstrual changes in case of female patient. In hypothyroidism, you had constipation. Here you can have increased number of this diarrhea, bowel habit, altered bowel habit in the form of diarrhea. Okay, so these type of features the patient can come to you. And again, you can again go for the this ultrasonography of the thyroid gland. In this case, you might not see the typical features like that of Hashimoto's thyroiditis, but you can see the thyroid gland are swollen up. Okay, you can also go for the cytology, fine needle aspiration cytology, and on the cytology, okay, on the basis of the thyroid follicular cells taken out from the needle, and on the cytology study, you can see that this could be the case of granulomatous thyroiditis. So no need to take out the biopsy. Okay, we can diagnose by cytology, we can diagnose by thyroid function test and ultrasound. So prognosis, unlike in hypothyroid, other hypothyroid state like Graves' disease and all, this radioactive iodine uptake is diminished, and recovery is very good. And after recovery, generally 6 to 8 weeks, the normal thyroid function is regained. Okay, so there is nothing to worry when there is this dequervain or granulomatous thyroiditis. Now almost the last slide, just to summarize between the Hashimoto's and thyroiditis, few important points you need to know. So Hashimoto's, you have to remember that the patient will have predominant features of hyperthyroid, whether in subacute thyroiditis, it is hypothyroidism. Okay, so here the goiter, the enlargement is diffused. Okay, and it is usually non-tender. It is tender swelling of the thyroid gland here in dequerban thyroiditis, and here it is usually post-viral. They give the history of upper respiratory tract infection. Okay, so if you are suspecting Hashimoto's on the clinical grounds, diagnosis, you have, okay, TFT you do, okay, and radioactive iodine ultrasound. Apart from that, this is very important, antibody test.